Hey everybody, Roger here. First off, this isn't a Pride shirt. This is a Pet Shop Boys album cover, so just want to get that out there. Want to go ahead and talk to you guys today about Nick Sandmann versus Nathan Phillips and the Covington High School students and the Black Israelites and MSM. I want to go ahead and go over the outline of everything that we know up to now, and hopefully this will be my last video on it, unless something major happens and the students are actually reprimanded and expelled or whatever, which I really hope isn't the case after all the evidence and new footage that has come out. We do all know now, unless your ego is so big that you don't want to be admitting that you were wrong in the first place about these kids being innocent in this whole process, and they were actually the victims of adults who were eager for coverage or something, then you'll understand at this point that those kids are innocent. So I have a lot of notes here, and I just kind of want to go over the timeline really quick and then give my final thoughts on this and hopefully put this thing to rest. Hopefully the next news we hear in the next couple of days is that the students are actually going to be, they won't be expelled from their school. We'll go from here. So the order of this whole thing, we now have multiple angles of the footage. It was not released by MSM. They went with the first shots that they had, and they ran with the gun. And again, this is careless. This is why Trump is right. They should be chastised and reprimanded, not reprimanded, but chastised. The public will reprimand them by not giving into their bullshit anymore until they get bankrupt. So that eventually will happen over time. We just have to be smart, whenever we, or just use our brain, not even smart, just use your brain and do a little bit more research before you go off on a tangent and prejudge, especially you blue checks on Twitter. It basically revealed that the Black Israelites were taunting and mocking the students. They were calling them names like faggots, that their family is all about incest. They came from incestuous parents, and it even stated that their black friend was eventually going to have his organs sold by his white friends, and they're just like, oh, what is going on here? Among other things, you go watch that footage if you want. You can see a 2-hour version of it, but there's also cut-up versions here and there of that 2-hour segment, plus adding in other people's footage as well, showing how detestable these Black Israelites were. And to the guy in my last comment, in my last video, whom I pinned your comment at the top of my page, you, my friend, are a snake. You are the reason that there's issues in this world. Every word that I typed, you took out of context and started putting your own rendition of it in there. Go figure. I can take it. It's all good. If you want to go ahead and be that sneaky and be a snake and not take my interpretation of things and then start deciding what I'm saying with your interpretation as what I meant, that's not the case, buddy. That's not how the world works. If it does work like that in your mind, I'm going to be very happy man when my investment in mental institutions and asylums starts to skyrocket. So anyways, enough of that. So what else? The boys stood up basically for gays. They did. There was a point in there where he had said Trump was a homosexual, which I thought was kind of funny because of the Rudy Giuliani kiss, when Rudy was in drag. And then they said, you guys give rights to homosexuals. Well, the kids came out and said, and I'm not gonna be editing this video to put in any other content. It's just gonna be me talking. So you guys can look at the content from my last video and the links of all of things that I didn't post in my video below the description of that video. Things that I didn't cover that came out afterwards. So it's a pretty well stocked video with description links. So anyways, but the kids stood up for gays. They basically said, oh, gays are people too. They get to have equal rights as well. We're not a nation of class systems that will prevent people from actually thriving off the land and becoming who they want to be, regardless of anything. They could be gay, they could be trans, they could be a yes man person, they could be a man or a woman or whatever. Anybody could be successful in this country, and everybody has rights. That's what America is. If you don't want rights, hey, those 4 Israelites, go to a foreign country. Go to Libya. Go to Libya. If you want to see the slaughter, if you go to the Middle East, if you want to see the slaughter of gays, go there. I'm pretty sure you probably would fit right in, but you probably don't want to give up your American rights. Just the way that I see it. So from here, Phillips. We come to Phillips now. Nathan Phillips kept hearing, supposedly with all the banging of his drums that he was doing all day, he suddenly heard build the wall. He suddenly heard that. And if you watch the footage, you'll see he was a ways away to even know what was going on. The benefit of the doubt here, there are some news reports actually saying, because Phillips himself says that he heard this. He says that he heard this, but there is also, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because he did have a lot of people come up to him that were part of his group that said, hey, you know, they're putting down Native Americans and they're saying bad things about the Native American thing that we're doing here. And so I think he then at that point took it upon himself to go and approach them. This is the part that bothers me because he keeps giving different reasons as to why he approached those students. I got the reasons all here. He said one of the first reasons, or maybe it was in between, he said he needed to move past them to continue to the Lincoln Memorial where he was going to continue his ceremony, whatever. Well, if that's the case, you could have moved behind them. There was so much room in all angles that you could have gone, but you decided to go through them. Made no sense to me. If that was one, that was reason number one. That was reason number one. Reason number two, he said he wanted to diffuse the situation he heard with the black peaceful individuals. Okay, you know what's very dangerous is the fact that you decided to take a side. You are playing the arbiter of who is right and who is wrong in the situation. And that's for a civilian. I don't care if you're a vet, a citizen, or a he-man or whatever. For anyone, you're all judged on this. For anyone who would choose to choose a side in a public conflict and say that one person were the bad ones over the other ones and not get the information from it and just make that pre-assumption that one side is the bad one, that should be considered a crime, especially at this magnitude, because this magnitude, you're already having celebrities like Kathy Griffin asking for addresses, they want names, they want the schools. All this information is out there now. Look what you have caused. Do you have any guilt for this, especially after seeing all of the footage? Anyways, let's go on to the third item here. You were informed by some I went through this already. Some Native American protesters that they heard the boys saying rude things about the Indigenous Peoples March. Your responsibility to actually get the truth and instead take action is careless. I just went through that a couple seconds ago. It was very careless. I've already mentioned you said build a wall, or that you heard them say build a wall. You state the students kept leaving and coming back with a larger group. The students were waiting, were told there, and I'm pretty sure you know this already as well. The students were getting their other students that they saw walking around, bringing them to the monument area where they were told to wait by their superiors for the bus. That's why they were getting more and more students. They were gathering them up because at a certain time, a little bit after this whole scenario, the bus was supposed to come and take the students away. So the kids were doing what was right, what was told to them by their superiors, by their authority figures. You, on the other hand, decided to go rogue and just assume all these things and make these kids look bad on national television. To the average person who doesn't want to do their research, I see these kids as victims. I saw it initially when this came out. I knew there was something fishy about it. And it's people like me, people like all these other people who are posting these videos, not just defending the students, because I didn't defend the students initially either. I wanted to see more information. It looked fishy. When something looks like this and somebody gets an immediate interview after that, like you did on CNN, on all these other channels, it sparks something in my head that makes me want to research a little bit more, and I'm glad I did, because now we see that we have victims. You said that you thought that they were insulting and mocking a Native American dance or some sort of a tribal dance. You mentioned that you thought that their hand gestures and stuff were mocking. First off, it's America. I'm pretty sure you've gone to an Atlanta Braves game, or you've heard of the Atlanta Braves. You probably have heard of the Tomahawk. Some of these, in my idea, ridiculous chants. Nonetheless, the average American does participate in stuff like this on a regular basis. And granted, I think in the past you have said that stuff like this does bother you. I will give you that. However, you're again pre-assuming these kids. You're pre-assuming their intent. You don't understand what they see and what they're brought up with in their eyes. And so far from what I see, even with whatever they were taught, they look like good upstanding students. They look like good upstanding people who are going to be probably for the most part doing good things in the world. I would say that about you if I saw that you were doing something as well. But everything I've researched about you has been pretty opportunistic, I should say. You know, the Skrillex video where you're a victim, the time you got hit in the head with a can, and then everything from there was hearsay in that article. We won't get into that. Everybody can do their own research. And then the Black Israelites, yeah, you know, everybody can have their own ideologies. It's when you start spreading your hate that you're doing all around instead of trying to work with one another. You already have your own problems, in my opinion, as that kind of a group that I just won't really give my time of day. You make it to where a lot of people from other different groups, white, Mexican, Hispanic, whatever, you make it to where it's very difficult for the average American to just trust that all of us as different ethnicities can get along. It's sad. It's sad. You know, it's a dividing tactic you're using there, especially the chat with me and my, again, look at the video, my last video. It's pretty funny. Okay. So you said that you thought they were mocking the Native American dance. Again, you assumed. And I did my research here, so I'm going to be reading what I found out about this. It was the Haka dance. Phillips called it racist that the kids were doing this, yet it's ignorant that you don't even know the history of what they were doing and immediately assume racism. The Haka is a New Zealand war dance of the indigenous Maori, excuse me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, M-A-O-R-I, and it was made famous by New Zealand's rugby team. And I didn't know that initially. I actually had to look it up. Not hard to do when you go to Google. Not hard to just excuse people initially and just mind your own effing business. This is something that's normal in America, and you're suddenly offended by it. They're not offending you. They're not doing it to. What they were doing was trying to diffuse the situation. You came up to them, started banging drums in their face, inches away, you know, and then putting the drum right up in your ear and his ear. And you expect these kids to just think that's normal. I mean, they were all chanting like, what is going on? They kept saying that throughout the video. What's going on? I don't know what's going on. What is happening here? Watch the footage. If you don't want to watch it, it's your deal. But don't have a pre-assumption about these kids when you don't even want to do your freaking homework. I'm talking to the average person and probably to Phillips as well and his group. So yeah, I didn't know that initially about that dance, but that's what happens. You know, you inform yourself before making judgments, before making assumptions. If you find it offensive, that's your problem. I don't find it offensive when somebody goes and makes, you know, Tex-Mex tacos or has taco infusion with like Japanese and Mexican. Hey, it's fucking life. It's life. We're all people. We all deserve to try different things. We all deserve to be part of you know, even if little things like this, you know, have a little bit of culture experience, I guess, or just school spirit. In this case, it was school spirit, and they've already claimed that they're very spirited in their school, and they always do chants, like their chants or whatever you call them. I don't know. One of my subscribers let me know what those were called last time, the school chants, and I still can't remember that word for the life of me, so I apologize. But yeah, it is what it is at that point. So as we know from here, the students were doing their best to diffuse the situation when you were all in their face, and they were waiting for their bus, chanting the slogans. So now school spirit is a crime. So now smiling is a crime. So now when somebody goes into your space, you're all harbored and you're doing your own thing, and you think that you're, you know, with you playing a drum and singing, me, if I was one of those students, I'd probably be doing the same thing too. Oh, let's dance, you know, whatever. But apparently you thought that was offensive and you thought it was insulting. Interpretation is everything, you know, and I think you falsely interpreted that on purpose. I think you knew that they were kids and they were probably just trying to, you didn't, I don't know, that they were just trying to get along with you and thinking that this was some sort of a little activity or something. And it wasn't until later when your friend, which we're going to be discussing here very shortly, decided to throw racial slurs and say something that I think is probably probably the second or third worst thing you can say throughout this whole conflict. The first obviously was what the Black Israelites were saying to the kids, for sure, especially the organ harvesting thing, and then faggots have rights, and that they were, that their parents are incestuous and stuff. But one of your guys says something very bad. He basically said this. He said, told his kid to go back to his country and use the F word while doing it. You guys, if you watched my last video, you know what I'm talking about. And then the kid was just trying to retort with some facts, which I didn't bother looking up. I don't question these kind of things. It is what it is at this point. But then the guy turns back around and says, no, you go back to your country and this and that and this and that. So my question here is this verbal abuse of a minor being covered in favor of a boy standing in front of a man playing a drum okay? Is this okay? Is it okay that this adult is now cussing, turning around cussing at this young man, 16, 15, 17 years old, whatever age he is? Is it okay? Is this what the MSM is okay with? They're not covering it. But I mean, with the narrative change, now that they saw the video, now maybe they saw my video, because my video clearly points that part out. Is this now considered okay? An adult can attack a kid in this fashion? Are we then, the next step, going to be the adult can now physically attack a kid and have it be okay as long as it's somebody wearing a MAGA hat? It makes no sense. I mean, where is this world going? If I slurred my words, where is this world going? Yeah, and what else do we have here? Okay, so the MSM advertises, and yes, I did say advertise. They advertise this is a young man, the young white man kid in a MAGA hat being raised to hate minorities and spread hate. They're basically putting these kids' lives on the line for their profits and their agenda. It's two things that they hold very dear, is changing the narrative and having that narrative be something that's a fad that will get them viewers, will get people riled up, getting people talking about it, keep coming back for the updates, advertising money, advertising dollars. It gets people coming back, and it's going to crowd. It crowded me unfortunately, it crowded me to go to some of these websites because I wanted to look at the information, not the information, but the propaganda that they were spreading. I wanted to hear it firsthand from them, and that's sad because I could have gone to the original footage initially as well, but I wanted to see what was being spread so that I can cover it here as well. Anyways, yeah, so they're doing that to make this isn't to help people see the light. This isn't to show people, oh look, this is happening around the United States, and it's something that we should be aware of and be very scared of and be cautious of, and try to stop promoting. This MAGA hat wearing thing, it should stop. Even I think I'm not sure if it's the governor or a mayor in Kentucky said that he wants to ban MAGA hats or something like that. I'm like, you are so stupid. You are just, again, you jumped the bandwagon. What I call you guys in my last video, bandwagon offended. I'll hashtag that from here on out. You're the bandwagon offended, and you do it on purpose, even though you know you're wrong, because you're attention whores, and you don't mind scapegoats. As long as your ego is satisfied, as long as you know that you're going to take down another Trump supporter, or again just the supporter of America in general, you don't care. It's a win for you, regardless. You don't care about people. You just care about your ego. It's pathetic. Okay, so the next thing. Catholic school officials. The Catholic school officials provided an apology to the public and states that there could be ramifications after they investigate. I found that very sad. The adults get away with taunting kids. The adults get away with telling all these kids these horrible things that kids shouldn't be hearing about incest, about gays, about all these other things, harvesting body parts, and the taunting of the kids was not questioned by anyone, and even with the additional footage, I haven't seen another statement yet, and I tried looking before I made this video to see if there was a statement from the Covington Catholic School. I haven't seen anything. If anybody does have any sort of a statement that shows that they've actually seen the videos and maybe they've already made their decision in regards to the kids and what's going to happen, please let me know in the comments below. I'd really appreciate it. I wasn't able to find anything even with filtered search of the last hour, last 24 hours. So I'd appreciate it. If there's not, then don't worry about it. But yeah, but for the school to side with the adults versus their own students, in my opinion, is reprehensible. It's not. Uh, wouldn't you want your school to defend your students? Wouldn't you want your school to ensure that if not take the side of the students, to at least be neutral in the situation? Don't offer an apology. Be neutral in the situation. It says if there is something that that's the first stance they should have taken. Ladies and gentlemen, public, if there is something that happened, we will issue an apology. Don't just issue an apology right away. We will issue an apology. And then from there, if we don't find anything wrong, we will go ahead and investigate further to try to see if we can throw some damage control on this, maybe even try to sue the people. And we'll get to that part in a minute. But no, the school, I'm very saddened about the way the school handled this. You know, already making apologies and you know, saying your sorries and stuff. Parents, if your kids go to this school, I would highly recommend you consider what I just said right now to heart. Would you really want your students being at a school where they're going to be prejudged this way and with little evidence? Actually already assuming that the students are doing something bad and offering an apology? They should be having your students back, and at the very least be neutral about it until they get more of the information. They weren't either of those. I would highly encourage you to go to a different school. Don't give your money to that school anymore. We'll see what happens in the coming days, but initially they should be reprimanded for that alone. That school should anyways. Okay, so some thoughts now. Shouldn't Phillips be reprimanded for made an example of regarding his assumptions that has led to these students being doxxed by celebrities, by politicians, outrage mobs, and the Twitter blue checks? I think he should be. This lie has gone on long enough, and a lot of these students now are getting death threats. Sandmann and his family are getting death threats, and I think a couple of these other students are as well. So it's something that should be reprimanded, in my opinion. And you know, hopefully this will serve. If he is reprimanded, this will serve as a really good example of other things. I can already see the headlines though. If he was reprimanded, Native American, a rare Native American soldier in the Vietnam era is now being, you know, sued or reprimanded or chastised for his part in, you know, reporting this incident the way that he saw it. That's where I can see this going, turning into a racial issue, and then everybody else gets into more fervorous uproar. But we have the facts out there right now, and if we don't start now, this is going to continue going until the country is brave enough to say, oh, you know what, I don't give a shit if somebody is Mexican like me, or black, or white, or Asian, or Native American, or whatever, or even East Indian, any race or ethnicity or whatever, or background. Until we start reprimanding people. Look, we didn't look at GameStop. You didn't reprimand the It's Man person. The good thing is that I've watched a lot of footage from a lot of other transgender people in that lifestyle, and a lot of them side with the general public. You know, you should have sued this person for the damages that he caused in your store, for the outrage, and that. If not that, at least reward and award the kid, you know, some sort of a bravery award. I don't know, give him a raise or something for how patient he was. I saw your statement. You did say you acknowledged him being patient and everything, but again, this isn't taking action. You know, you're still letting these people get away with this, so more and more people like this can know that they can get away with something like this. Same here. These people are going to get away with it over and over again until we start making examples and stop being afraid of being labeled a racist because we're putting a minority, holding them accountable. I want people held accountable no matter your background. You know, law is law, rule of law. That's what makes this country great. And I think it's one of the things I said in my last video as well. A lot of people are saying, oh, well, how can this country be great if, you know, there's officers killing innocent blacks? And I'm like, well, you need to start watching all the videos. And also, per capita, it is whites who get killed more than blacks by officers. And also, a lot of the people who are killed, black and white, get shot down because they're not listening to the officer. It's so simple. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's simple fucking math. Listen to the officer and you won't get harmed. Realistically, it's 0.0001 chance that you probably will. There always is a bad seed in every industry. This is also why I think it's ridiculous when people are like, oh, well, I'm not going to watch Hollywood movies anymore because this person's a rapist, or that actor is, and this producer or that filmmaker. You won't buy any product with that hypocrisy in your mind because you're a hypocrite already. There's people probably in your field. There's people that probably serve food at McDonald's or something. One of them was somebody who murdered somebody in the past. Are you going to stop going there? Are you going to boycott that? No, it will keep adding up. There's people like this everywhere. The thing you can stop doing is stop supporting the propaganda that is produced out of these people. And that's the smart way of doing it. Not just because one person's this or that. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. It's the propaganda and the influence and the all that kind of stuff that you should be avoiding and trying to fight against. Not this other menial bullshit that is just everywhere and common. So, okay. Let's see here. Phillips states, it looked like, okay, this is a very important one. Phillips had initially stated in one of the interviews, and the CNN one that I had in my last video, it looked like it needed just one little spark. He's talking about the crowd, and that mob would have descended on those guys. So and then also later on he said, when I got into the middle of it, I felt like I made a mistake because at any moment, if I touched any one of them, it would be enough for them to attack. Or he didn't use those words, but he gave that connotation. No, dude. You're prejudging. Again, prejudging, and needlessly so. You put yourself in that position. Nobody else did. Those kids didn't ask you to come over. You came over there yourself, and you decided to go in people's faces, and you're now afraid that your personal choice to go over there was going to get you hurt. I think you knew you weren't going to get hurt. I think you knew that, and I think that you really just wanted to go ahead and spark controversy is how I see it. You're an opportunist. I'm already at that level of understanding that. There's also the issue of you moving into their space intentionally. It could have been assumed that you could have been violent. Have you ever thought about that? Maybe the kids did right by being patient, waiting there, doing their cheers, and then after a while they realized, oh, these guys aren't gelling with us. That woman said that we're acting like a mob. And then that word probably got around, and they're like, okay, well, now we think that something is wrong here. It's good that they started leaving after that, and that their bus eventually came a little shortly thereafter. But you guys, it could have been assumed that you guys were there as well. Look at how they handled it compared to you. They didn't go to the media and say, oh, these older men, they decided to come up to us and started doing, these things, and they're trying to taunt us and upset us and whatnot, trying to trigger us and make us react. And those kids are better than that. They obviously it's apparent by the video that they're way better than you guys. You guys are the ones that approached, and you were taunting, trying to get something out of it. You guys are fucking assholes. Let's see what else. There's another video. It's a sideline video, like after the whole thing happened. I believe it was a little after the whole thing happened. One of the students, a taller student with a blue shirt, I believe, and a Native American. Native American just kept saying something about, you guys stole our lands, and yada, yada, yada. And this is just one that I just saw recently. It's not one of the old ones. And the student basically says, this land has been stolen. All land has been stolen all throughout history. That's how it works. That was basically his line. What the fuck is wrong with that? It's true. Why are people so afraid of the truth? If you're afraid of the truth, you're gonna always be afraid, and you're gonna think that it's bad to hear it. And I stand up for this kid because it is true. Almost every single country in the world in existence has always had death, rape, everything. Everything under the sun is taken over, whatever. It's part of life. It has been part of life. Again, the way that we can stop it is by being an example here in our country. Stop getting these politicians who don't do fucking shit for our country, and instead just start having these people in our elected officials, start having our authorities enforce the laws, follow the laws, uphold the laws, and we'd be a great country. We'd be a model country. We wouldn't have people wanting to flock in, trying to feed off of it. Not only that, those people are wasting the opportunities that they have in their countries. America's great. And no, a lot of countries out there are not great, but you know what? They can make it great if they stay there and they see us as an example, and maybe they can. There's some that are due for a revolution. They need to overthrow their government and just start fresh or something. You know, it's ridiculous. It's crazy how people think that everybody has to come to America. It's just dumb. God gave everybody the world. He didn't give everybody America. He gave everybody the world. The world is your oyster, and if you're in that part of the world, there's a reason why you were put there. Maybe again, you could probably make America you could probably make your country way better than America. Who knows? And be the envy of the world at that point. I don't know why envy is such a horrible word anyway. You could just be good to your people. I don't know. It's just wishful dreaming on that part, but let's move on. So the student was on blast for stating the truth. I side with him. Good head on your shoulders, kid. What else? Phillips. I want to know, after you've seen all the new footage, which I'm sure you have at this point in time, you probably didn't even need to see the footage. You already knew what was happening. But you didn't see how they were harassed, I'm assuming. Now that you saw how they were harassed by the Black Israelites, what would you say now? You defended the wrong people. I mean, you didn't fight in Vietnam to assume certain things. You knew. You got information, handed to you of what you needed to do, and you didn't do that here. You decided to take a side. You decided to take a side of, and this is how I'm looking at it, other people because they were black, because they were minorities. And you saw that people wearing MAGA hats, you saw that people wearing MAGA shirts and school shirts and stuff, and you already pre-assumed. You judged these kids with no bad, it doesn't seem like they were doing anything bad. You judged them, but you didn't judge these people because you didn't want to ask questions. You just wanted to assume. You went with your assumption, and you were dead wrong. Those kids were being harassed by that group, by those 4 guys, and you sided with the wrong team. What is your answer to that? I would really like to know. I'm not hearing any sort of a statement coming out from you. I'm pretty sure we won't, but I think it's fair that we hear it, especially now with all the new uncovering footage. What else? Prejudgment and profiling doesn't do anybody any good. You decided to look at the worst in them. You decided, again, you didn't decide that with the 4 Black Israelites. You only decided that with the MAGA hat wearing people. Your claim of hearing them say build a wall was completely wrong. Your interpretation of everything was off. I don't think you ever heard anybody say build a wall. I didn't hear anybody say build a wall. And you beating the drum would make, maybe you heard the reverberation of it and you're all build a wall, bum bum bum, build a wall, bum bum bum. Maybe it was your drum. Who knows? Maybe your drum is trying to tell you something. My opinion. What else? This one's funny. MSM, celebrities, the mob outrage people, and Phillips. Your native friend was cussing at a kid, telling him to go back to his country when this is his home. That's basically an attack on him as a person, and where he rightfully belongs in America. It's his home. So what are your ideas? You said you were peaceful and your group was peaceful. How was that peaceful? Please tell me. I'd really like to know. I think America would like to know too. In fact, if there's anybody out there who does have a direct connection with him, ask him that question. Ask him the one I asked before this too, but definitely ask him that one. Why was it considered a peaceful march when you decided that instead, no, your group there was going to be very, I don't know if the word is racist, but you're basically trying to put people in their place and tell them to go back to where they came from. That's not unifying. That's not unifying at all. It's completely against what you said you were doing there. It's actually the opposite. So I'd really like your answer on that. So anybody out there, please ask him that. What else? Also got to ask the MSM and celebrities and the mob outrage people as well. After watching all these videos, what are you guys' thoughts now? I bet I know. It's your ego. Your ego is too hard to be broken. You fell for the first 30-second, 1 minute, 30-second clip, and you immediately assume something, and you just don't want to be wrong. You don't want to be wrong. Look, I was wrong in my last video when I had said they went there for March for Our Lives, which is pretty funny because I am completely against that March for Our Lives bullshit. And I think I probably used that phrase a lot in my previous videos in regards to March for Our Lives. And I meant to say March for Life. And I had somebody who basically said that CNN and the MSM was actually better at covering this than I was. And I'm like, well, not really. I put the correction in the comments, and I even gave her credit. Sarah something. I gave her credit. And I said, look, you know, I am a little bit better than the MSM because I'm actually putting a retraction in plain sight in my description and owning up to the fact that I said something out of, you know, it was just a slip of the tongue. And I did it twice, but I wasn't consciously thinking about it. But in my head, I was thinking March for Life. So she corrected me, and she was definitely against everything that I said, but I gave her credit where credit is due. I don't have an ego. I don't need an ego. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Correct me. And that's why I ask for, you know, links and stuff. If somebody wants to give me links and whatnot, it is what it is. So yeah, it's you celebrities, you outrage mob people, you blue checks, you MSM, not even MSM, just the first three. You guys all have big egos, and you don't want to be wrong. And you hate being shown that you're wrong, and you will not ever admit it. You'll just go out and either delete your tweets or just don't address them again and keep moving on to the next outrage story because it gets you off. You're basically, you ruin lives. You ruin lives. You feed off of it, and it's disgusting. I don't know how you guys live with yourselves when you act like that. My thoughts about it. What else? Oh, this one's funny. So the students have a pro bono lawyer now, and this pro bono lawyer is willing to sue the crap out of MSM, and I believe he might be even thinking about suing some celebrities who are trying to make CTAs, call to action, against these students, asking for their names, their schools, their addresses, their parents' place of work, things like that. Here's looking at you, Kathy Griffin, and Elisa Milano. You should have taken your meds instead of you know, tweeting out all the vitriol before you even knew what was happening. You know, you already said you have mental condition or whatever, so I mean, go focus on that instead of focusing on problems you don't know how to solve and you know nothing about, and you refuse to research, and you refuse to follow up on. Hey, I'm pretty sure some of those illegal kids are still waiting for you to house them, so get to that. What else? Case Irenaeus. He's a spokesperson for the Indigenous March and also an attorney for the Lakota People Law Project. I'm probably destroying the pronunciation of Lakota, so excuse me for that. Or don't. And basically he states that he believes what the kids did, this is hilarious. He believes what the kids did was the legal definition of assault. Can you believe this bullshit? He must have not watched the whole video, or maybe he just has selective outrage like everybody else, or selective eyes. He said it's causing an apprehension, an objective fear, and harm. They were loud, aggressive, vocal, and disruptingly drowning out the Africans. Those are his words. I'm like, okay, so in other words, if he wants to say drowning out Africans is illegal, it's considered, what did he say, borderline assault. He called it assault. Drowning out Africans. So are you saying that we can drown out people that are white? Are you saying that we can drown out people that are Mexican? I don't know what you're saying here, buddy. You're making absolutely no sense, and it's obviously just a bunch of nonsense. So, yeah, stupid. He also says, this is the funny one, that the kids were fearful of losing their power dynamic and being called racist. Oh my God. How do these kids have power when right now everybody's powered over them? You're putting this on kids. You're saying this about kids. There are, and don't get me wrong, there are kids out there that are masterminds and probably would want to destroy the world and are racist and stuff like that, but you're attacking everyday students. In this case, you have nothing to stand on. All the evidence is out there and you've been proven wrong. There is this one video though, and I had to look at it over and over again. It's about It's basically said that, no, look, Sandman, the kid, the famous kid now, he moved from he moved from this side of the film to this side, and he stood right in front of Phillips. Well, the guy that was making the video, he was panning left and right throughout the audience. He started out over here with, and I was looking at this video kind of carefully, and I'm going to look at more angles. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, I'm right. There was a guy in front of the guy doing the camera pan who was wearing a green jacket. The guy in the green jacket started right here with his left shoulder, and so he moves this way, and then he goes back, and then the cameraman now ends up on the right side of his shoulder. So people moved throughout this process, but so did the cameraman. I mean, it's so stupid. This video is just really mental. But again, he probably has something, and I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to do my own research, time bearing. We'll see. I have a very busy work week, but we'll check it out, and I'll let you know. I'll let you know what I find. See if he did walk over to him on purpose because he wanted to hear the music. Lessons. First lesson of the day: hearing aids are very important, especially if you play the drums close to yours and other people's faces. Lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, that people would believe a blatant lie about racism just to push an agenda. Yeah, and that's basically, this is the perfect example of it, and it's probably one of the most detestable and worst examples ever. It definitely was a witch hunt. Lesson number 3, people who believe, and this one I think I've preached for a long time, but I'm adding it to this list. People who believe the first rendition of any sort of a report or story, in my opinion, it is a story, try to refuse it. Try to refrain from being wrong out of ego, even when they're proven wrong. The ego is your enemy, people. I mean, I'm right maybe 5% of the time myself, but when I'm right, I do clout. When I'm wrong, I will admit I'm wrong. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. There's nothing wrong with getting a story wrong. I've done it sometimes. I've done it a couple times in my videos. People correct me, and I will pin that comment to the top of the video and say, "Correction here, people. Please read." And you don't have to have an ego about it. You're not God. You're not expected to know everything. I don't think even the best people in the world that I follow know everything. You put that much power on people, you're just stupid. It's dumb. It's idiotic. I don't know. It's just dumb. But ego is a big enemy. Get over the ego, and you'll probably see your life change for the better. The last thing I do want to end it with this, because this guy, I used to follow this guy, and I don't think I will anymore. I've already unfollowed him, and he's the first person I think I've ever unfollowed only because of what he did. He puts out a tweet saying, "Find these guys. I will, and if you punch them in the nuts for me, I'll give you a signed autograph of my albums." Yeah, Wheeler Walker Jr., fuck you, bitch. Fuck your dog. I hope he sits in your face. And I know you're not going to hate that he smells like piss, because your mouth smells like ass, especially with all the shit that comes out of it. If you don't know who he is and you don't know why I said that, go listen to his music and you'll find out. Alright guys, like, hate, subscribe, unsubscribe, share. I love it all. Peace out.